These are the Islamic Ridda Wars, a huge and history-defining set of battles that took place after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's death in 632 to 633 AD. Key Islamic historical figures that fought in these wars were Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Musaylama, the false prophet, and among many more. I'd also really appreciate it if you got comfortable and grabbed something to eat, as I'll be explaining the main, most important and interesting parts of the early wars that defined the unity and strength of Islam, the Ridda Wars. By the way, as a side note, towards the end of the video, I'll also be explaining about how the Quran ended up being made into one text as a result of these wars, so please stick around till the end of the video to find out what happened with that. Anyways, enough talk. This is the wars that defined early Islam, the Ridda Wars, explained in under 15 minutes. So, local Arab tribes in early Islamic Arabia had started to rebel by not paying the state tax, also known as zakat, and a lot of them would end up leaving Islam after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's death. They most likely felt no need to support Abu Bakr, as Prophet Muhammad was the one who they were most likely closest to. They essentially pledged their allegiance to him, and Prophet Muhammad, as we all know, is a core element of Islam, and with his death, the recently converted and united Arab tribes began to break apart and rebel under the new ruling of the new Rashidun Caliph, and that would be Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. However, not all the rebel tribes left Islam though. Some of them stayed within the fold of Islam but refused to pay zakat. Abu Bakr saw this altogether as apostasy. Apostasy meaning to reject religious law or rules that have been set, or to completely disobey and leave the religion. Zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and without zakat, things get very bad for those in need, as zakat allows us to stay grateful and give back to those who are less fortunate. And speaking of prophets, I actually speak about and discuss the real prophets of Islam in my Islam Iceberg series. I'd really appreciate if you checked out this series, as I speak about all different kinds of really interesting topics that are related to the beautiful religion of Islam. Anyways, back to the video. False prophets and apostasy were the main driving force for these battles to commence. I already spoke of apostasy, but another issue would also rise for Islam: false prophets. After the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away, many people took it upon themselves to claim that they are prophets, but there are 4 that uniquely stand out, and they would be Musaylama, also known as the false prophet; Sajjah, the false prophetess who ended up marrying Musaylama in some weird The Real Housewives of Arabia ordeal; Talayha ibn Khuwaylid, another false prophet who would actually end up fighting for Islam. Keep watching until the end of the video to find out what happened with that situation. And Al-Aswad al-Ansi was another false prophet who operated within Yemen. Musaylama was seen as the biggest threat, as he had a very large amount of followers. And just as a side note, Al-Aswad al-Ansi, better known by this name given to him by Wikipedia, the Master of the Ass, as he was often seen performing tricks with a donkey, was a mysterious Arab tribe leader who also claimed prophethood. He ended up capturing important parts of Yemen, including the capital of Yemen, Sana'a. His rule over a good majority of Yemen was short-lived, however, as he was later assassinated in a covert operation, just before the Ridda Wars would begin. The battles that took place during the Ridda Wars were incredibly bloody, and many lives were lost. Medina was the stronghold for the Muslims, and Abu Bakr al-Siddiq divided the Muslim army into 11 corps, and assigned 1 general to each corps. Corps meaning a subdivision within an army. Khalid ibn al-Walid showed his excellent strategy and tactical skills in previous battles, so he was chosen as a main general for one of the corps of the Muslim army. Khalid ibn al-Walid was also given the name Sayfullah, the sword of Allah, by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. However, the apostate tribes would soon launch an offensive on the Muslim stronghold of Medina. In July 632 AD, the new Caliph at the time, Abu Bakr, sent messengers to the apostate tribes, asking them to remain loyal to Islam and continue to pay their zakat. This demand was rejected by the apostate tribes. Talayha, one of the false prophets, gathered an army on the outskirts of the Muslim stronghold Medina. An assault was launched. by the rebellious tribes. Abu Bakr received intelligence of the apostates' movements and immediately prepared for the defense of Medina. The elite guard unit Al-Haras wa Al-Shurta was led by Ali ibn Abi Talib and Zubair ibn al-Amwam, among other companions of the Prophet also. During the night, Al-Haras spotted the apostate tribes, and the apostates ended up fleeing from the battlefield. But what was next to come was one of the first battles during the Ridda Wars, the Battle of Zhu Qissa. The Battle of Zhu Qissa was a meaningful short battle for the Rashidun Caliphate, as it would be one of the first battles in the Ridda Wars. The apostate forces, led by Tulayha ibn Khuwaylid, saw Medina as a place to launch an assault. However, the Rashidun Caliphate's horses and camels were untrained during one of the confrontations with the apostates, as the main bulk of the trained horses and camels were sent to Balkha. With these untrained camels, the Rashidun Caliphate's army were left vulnerable, and the apostates ended up launching a surprise attack on Abu Bakr's men. The Rashidun Caliphate had to tactically retreat as the untrained camels were frightened on the battlefield. The next day, however, Abu Bakr's men would see victory on the battlefield, and the apostate forces of Tulayha were defeated. Tulayha and his remaining forces fled to Abrak, and would later move on to Buzakha. The Battle of Zhu Qissa would be a Rashidun Caliphate victory. In the middle of September, the Battle of Buzakha was to commence. Khalid ibn al-Walid marched strong with 6,000 men, and Tulayha ibn Khuwaylid marched forth with 35,000 men at his disposal also. Uyayna also commanded the apostate forces throughout the battle, and the apostate forces were ready for war. Tulayha, however, was seen a short distance away, trying to receive divine guidance in a tent. Khalid ibn al-Walid, a short time later, commenced forth and started the Battle of Buzakha. The apostate forces fought with the Muslims and were being dealt with heavy blows. Swords clanged and clashed, and the screams of pain and battle cries emitted from the battlefield. Uyayna, the commander of Tulayha's forces, went to his tent and tried to receive divine guidance as the battle raged on. Uyayna received no divine guidance from the false prophet and started to suspect that his perceived revelations were just lies. Khalid ibn al-Walid, however, and the Rashidun Caliphate's army continued to battle with the apostates until significant damage was dealt. Tulayha's army splintered, and some still tried to stay valiant, but their attempts were futile. Tulayha also ran from the battlefield on a nearby camel, and Khalid ibn al-Walid and the Rashidun Caliphate's forces chased the apostates, and Uyayna, the commander of Tulayha's forces, was eventually captured. The Battle of Buzakha would be another Rashidun Caliphate victory. As time went on, Tulayha would later convert to Islam, as Syria was conquered by the Muslims, and he was forgiven by Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. However, he was banned from joining the Islamic army at the time, due to his apostasy and other crimes. During the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab, however, Tulayha was a changed man and forgiven fully, and would prove a strong warrior for Islam, as he fought for the religion against the Sasanian Empire. The Battle of Yamama is the next huge battle in the Ridda Wars. Just before the battle was to begin, Ikrimah ibn Amr was told by Abu Bakr to track and make contact with the false prophet Musaylama, but he was also to not engage in warfare until Khalid ibn al-Walid joined him. But Ikrimah grew impatient of waiting for conflict and already launched an assault on Musaylama. Unfortunately, Ikrimah lost this encounter with the false prophet and his 40,000 men. Abu Bakr, upset with his rash decision making, sent him elsewhere. Shurhabil ibn Hassana was also tasked by Abu Bakr al-Siddiq to follow Musaylama, but not to engage in battle. But unfortunately, as history may often repeat itself, Shurhabil couldn't contain his lust for battle and launched an assault just like Ikrimah ibn Amr did on Musaylama. Shurhabil would end up also losing the encounter, but luckily Khalid ibn al-Walid was not far and regrouped with the splintered remainder of Shurhabil's forces. Ikrimah, Shurhabil and Khalid ibn al-Walid marched forward as to begin the Battle of Yamama, and on the orders of Khalid ibn al-Walid, the Caliphate's forces advanced. They launched a series of attacks on Musaylama and his 40,000 men. Swords again clanged and crashed. The sounds of metal echoed over the war zone, and the Muslims would end up chasing Musaylama and his men into a fortress. Musaylama and his men were well fortified in said fortress, and the Muslims had to think quick and sharp on their feet as to eliminate the enemy. A brave companion of the Prophet, Al-Bara ibn Malik, requested that his brothers in arms literally throw him over the fortress's wall with a catapult to unlock the gate. With this being a rather odd and dangerous request, but with not many other options, the Muslims agreed, and Al-Bara ibn Malik, with the bravery and courage of a lion, was thrown over the fortress wall and would eliminate several guards and open the gate. The Muslims rushed in and executed thousands of the enemy in melee combat. Musaylima, the false prophet left cornered and defenseless, would soon meet his end by Washi ibn Harb, also known as the Son of War. Washi was a slave who was originally an opponent of Islam and actually ended up killing the Lion of Allah and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's uncle Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, as Washi was offered to be free from slavery if he either killed Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Ali ibn Abi Talib, or Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib in war. Washi would repent and ask for forgiveness for his sins and would later actually convert to Islam after being freed. But anyways, back to the battlefield. The Battle of Yamama was coming to a close, as several of the enemy had been eliminated in fierce hand-to-hand combat. Musaylima, defenseless, would meet the same end as the Prophet's uncle, as Washi threw a spear with ultimate precision and accuracy right into the stomach of Musaylima. As the life withdrew from Musaylima, Muslim victory was imminent. However, not without horrible consequences, as not everything was one-sided for the Muslims, as many were martyred in battle, including many brave Hafiz of the Quran. Hafiz meaning a Muslim who knows the Quran off by heart. These Muslims are important as they preserve the Quran in memory. As a result of these important Muslims dying in war, Abu Bakr al-Siddiq and Umar ibn al-Khattab would compile the Quran into one text, solidifying it as one of the most important texts in human history. But back to the Battle of Yamama. The city itself had surrendered, and the apostate tribes had been defeated in the area, and their leader, Musaylima, had been killed. And any apostates still left in any other areas after the battle were suppressed, and it had ended with a Rashidun Caliphate victory. Many other battles and conquests took place as to suppress and eliminate the apostasy in Arabia over the coming course of the next year. And at the end of it all, Islam would again be the dominant religion of Arabia, as Abu Bakr al-Siddiq's plan to re-establish Islam within Arabia had been successfully accomplished. Those that tried to rebel failed, and Islam would prevail and become even stronger. If you would like to see an overview and breakdown on that, let me know, as I'd happily like to do it, and any other sorts of warfare, such as how the Muslims actually lost the First Crusade, or how the Muslims lost the territory of Spain to the Spanish Reconquista, and how Al-Andalus was lost. If you would like to see any of those videos, please let me know in the comments. But anyways, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you are doing well, stay safe, happy and healthy, and please look after yourself. Bye now!